Hi YouTube, this is Kissplayed with another 5v5 gameplay replay review with some notes about a potential build you can consider if you are in what is referred to as the support position, which means in a 5-player game you are behind one of your fellow teammates here. You're not seeing him just yet because of the sorry, he's spawning in, and your job is essentially to win the 2v2 on your specific flank by supporting your teammate. So this is commonly referred to as the support position or the 2 and 4 position in a 5v5 lobby. So hopefully this is a build that you could consider when playing against an Vasari player on the other team, because this is the build I would end up recommending um, if you are playing as Advent and you know that at least one of your opponents is going to be Vasari. In the event that your opponent is, let's say, TEC in this position, I actually would not necessarily recommend this build order, mainly because of the fact that against TEC, I tend to like going more capital ship heavy, because this way you could the TEC player will have more quality cruisers is usually the meta now from TEC's end, and going more capital ship heavy, especially with Raptures, can let you steal a lot of their initial cruisers and let you swing the early game of the fight. So if folks are interested in that build, I could take a look at if I have a gameplay video of me executing that build order against TEC. But this is a build order that, even though the edge player is TEC, the support player is Asari, which means that this is a build meant to tackle the current meta, which is going to be mass Conrax at one point, supported by capital ships by Vasari. So yeah, hopefully let's just jump right into it and let's see how it goes. So as a general template, the idea of this build order is the fact that at tier 2 military tech, your supply cap is going to be 1,000. And if we look over at the Vasari player, let's just pull up a Vasari player here, and uh, you'll notice at tier 2, they are capped at 600. And as a result, the idea is you are going to basically outmass them in terms of fleet supply at around the same timing that they are also stuck at tier 2 and trying to transition to tier 3 to hit this 900 and 1500 fleet supply. So let's take a look at how this build works. And once again, as a heads up, the idea is to hit this timing at 1000, and the unit of choice that you're going to be using at this timing. Well, at the moment, Advent's kind of like in a weird spot militarily. Drone host used to be quite good as a go-to solution for tier 2. In fact, tier 2 Advent used to be quite strong because you get, as mentioned, the really nice 1000 fleet supply timing, and you also get a very nice powerful carrier. So this was a really nice timing attack window for in the prior patch. But now that carriers are really heavily nerfed, I don't think that this is necessarily viable anymore. So as a result, I recommend you going with a lightweight Tempest instead. Now, Tempests are quite strong in the tier 1 and tier 2 military timing window, but they will get very outscaled once cruisers show up at around the tier 3 windows. In fact, they kind of get a little outscaled by Conrax, even though Conrax also show up in tier 2. And the main reason why isn't because Tempests do poorly against Conrax. Tempests actually do fine against Conrax. But the issue is Conrax can kill your capital ships a lot faster than your Tempest can kill capital ships. So essentially what really ends up happening in the matchup, and you're going to kind of see it play out, is that it's going to be Conrax and capital ships against pure Tempests, which obviously then is no longer really as even. So yeah, instead then the goal is actually going to be going from Tempests and then eventually transitioning to the Vigilus, which is going to be your PD ship, and the Destras, and then Guardians at tier 2 as well. And kind of like these three ships for this core composition of what I call more of like this tanky Advent playstyle, where your goal isn't really necessarily to like immediately do high DPS, which used to be the old school Advent playstyle, but instead more to just kind of grind down your opponent's fleet by just letting them not really be able to kill you because you have things such as Rapture for your Vertigo, you have Halcyons for your telekinetic push, you have Progenitors for your AoE shield regen, and you have Radiances to do the taunts whenever you need. So with that kind of composition, and then with something like the Coronata also debuffing them, your fleet actually becomes very, very long-term durable. So your opponent gradually just kind of takes steady losses. And if you're in a team comp where you are supported by, let's say, a Vasari player, who also are going to be building their Conrax, you actually then have all the damage you need anyway from your teammate. You're just basically soaking everything. So yeah, that's the goal that we have in mind, and let's take a look at how we want to execute this specific goal. So the start I would recommend, if you looked at, and were able to make out what I was saying in my prior support video, is a 4-0 start. So what that means is essentially you're going to start off, and so in my prior videos I used to recommend you actually max out this mining, but after thinking about it a little bit further, and also there was another quite good strong player, Mathematical, who pointed out to me that it's better to actually start off by just maxing your commerce instead first. And the reason why is the jump from your first level of commerce is actually going to be much higher. Well, it's not much higher, but it's a little bit higher than the jump that you're going to get in terms of level 1 to level 2 mining. So as a result, it's actually better to get this level 1 or rather level 2 to level 3 commerce first as your first queue, and that's what you're seeing here, and then max out your mining as a result. In the long run, it's going to really make a huge difference. Not really, but it is still a little bit more optimal. Now, what you're going to have to remember is that if you choose to do this, you will have to spend that. That's assuming we actually spend that credit to buy the necessary metal and crystal. Don't just like kind of sit on a bank of like 2,000 credits and like no metal and crystal because of the fact that you didn't get this early mining bump. So it is something that you have to consider. And yes, it does work out better because of the fact that you get something like 3 credits, I believe, and you get less than, I believe, 1 as an increase here in terms of what you're getting. So it does work out slightly in favor of the exchange for credits, but it's very, very minor. So other than that, you'll want to start off by having initially building this Temple of Harmony orbital, which is for your Civic. That's the very first thing you'll want to do after this, and then start up on your Shrine of Revelation. Now, some folks might think, like, why start this? Because you're really mostly going to be grabbing stuff from here. Well, getting this stuff early gives you the flexibility to kind of go into your tier 2 civils if you want, off maybe different bro passes and so forth. Because Advent, actually, the first 2 Harmony tree, there is a lot of really good texts, and you may want to mix things up depending on what your circumstance is. So I wouldn't say you should follow kind of step by step what this research pathing is, but more of just like consider all of these things that I would recommend you research in the tree here from the tier 2 civil in whatever order you think makes the most sense in the game state that you're in. Okay, so other than that, you should know by now from my standard opener, you're going to want to start with the Rapture, and right click everything when you build that Rapture, because what you'll do is when you right click everything, you basically turn them off on AutoCast. This is really useful because of the fact that when you level up to level 6, which is the main reason we want the Rapture, we could want this Malice. You don't want the Malice to AutoCast as soon as you level it. Sometimes that could really suck in a fight if it happens to level it up. Otherwise, also, just throw this item right away. You just simply get rid of it by just clicking it and then dropping it off, and you'll notice if you paid attention just briefly earlier, there was a kind of like this refund window that you're seeing here where I just got this extra boost of credit, metal, and crystal, and that's mainly because of the fact that the starting item really basically does absolutely nothing for the Rapture in terms of the ratios. The Psi is not really worth, in my opinion, Psi is probably not really even worth heavily investing outside of just the standard Psi you get from the research tree. The scaling is kind of all over the place, and most of the scaling really doesn't pay off all that much when it comes to the ships outside the progenitor. So yeah, just a little bit of a side tangent about Psi power. So okay, other than that, yeah, you'll obviously queuing up my very first 5 disciples, and since I am Wrath, I don't need the colony ship. So I start off here, and of course, as I noticed, I always want to grab this influence. Influence is just really, really useful in the beginning. It gives you really such a great eco payoff. It gives you the nanites to let you colonize, and give you that free mining and logistics, which is really handy. It gives you Gauss to help you defend against to help you defend your ally. It gives you pirates if you want to get extra cruisers, which is your main way of dealing with enemy capital ships in the beginning. So yeah, really, really handy. So if you were kind of paying attention to my prior videos, you would see like, hey, wait a minute, you used to like to steal the Garda. How come you ended up stealing the Cobalt in this one? The main reason why I stole the Cobalt in this one is because of the fact that there were a lot of Cobalts, and I just wanted that extra Cobalt DPS just to kind of clear this out faster. But really, that and also the fighters really just do nothing. I actually should have made a slight mistake. I should have got rid of this fighter and just went straight to bomber. And you do that by right-clicking this to basically despawn the fighter and then clicking the bomber to make it build bombers. But unfortunately, like I mentioned, strike crafts are really bad right now, so it's kind of negligible. So yeah, get the research, get the influence, and then I start up on the volcanic embrace, and that's mainly because by the time I kind of finish clearing this gravity well and I move on, I am going to basically have finished researching volcanic embrace, and I'm going to be good to go. So let's take a stock of the situation here on the map. Now, if I was fleeting as support normally, what I actually would ideally want to do is I probably actually want to colonize this way, not necessarily colonize backwards. But in this case, I've already agreed with Silas that he's going to give me an early front asteroid to basically build my factories out of. So as a result, I don't necessarily need to go this way to kind of secure some early frontline planets to basically start building really close to where Silas is. So I can kind of take my time and back colonize here, especially because if you look at where our eco player is, it's very inconvenient for our eco player to colonize this cluster around me and then hand me these planets. So that's the choice that I've made in terms of sort of doing this rotation, which is going to be here at this volcano, here at this ice, here at this asteroid, here at this asteroid, and then likely I'm going to go back down here, and here, and here to help Teal back cap form as well, because Teal's agenda should be to essentially go very aggressively forward to basically colonize along the forward route and start trying to get some critical choke points, especially as you can likely identify this asteroid, and if we can't get this asteroid, we will definitely want this one. So these are two very critical locations, and we're going to see how that plays out as well. So okay, let's kind of make this skip forward. The colonization phase is actually not that interesting. You can notice that after the volcano, I go and research the thriving desert, and then I queue up Arctic, even though the next planet I'm going to jump into is Arctic. And the main reason why here is, once again, because I'm playing Wrath, I'm planning on full clearing anyway. On top of that, I also do want to level up this Rapture to level 6, so I do want to pick up the XP. So as a result, if I pick up my Arctic first, I'm not really going to get much use out of it. There's 2 siege frigates that I'll have to take care of. There's a pretty sizable garrison, and I only got 7 disciples and a kobold to kind of help clear it out. And yes, with Dominate, I will take one of the javelins to help kind of speed this along, but it's still going to take quite some time. So because of that, I might as well get this first, the thriving desert income. Very, very handy for the extra civilian orbital slots, and also the credits at this point is going to make up a sizable fraction of your total income. You can see here, it's going to be practically close, somewhere about 1 divided by 4.5. I can't quite do the math in my head, but somewhere around like maybe 22%, give or take, of your total income, credit income. That's pretty darn good. So yeah. Anyway, so let's keep going. And as I mentioned. Really not that exciting. And you'll notice the first thing I want to do is I actually make my initial cobalt here. I grab one of the Gardas first. And the reason why I grab the Garda first is, for one, it can help me tank some of these and shoot down some of these missiles. It's going to tank the initial, all the shots from the Cobalt. Now you might say like, wait, if you tank all the shots from the initial Cobalt, it's just going to die. Then what the heck is the point of grabbing it? It's because in the beginning you only have 2 charges for your Dominate. So one of my charges is already eaten up by my Cobalt here. That's kind of jumping on in. So the other, but after a while, it's going to cycle back, and I'm just going to have no charges left if I already have 2 ships that are fully dominated. So might as well just take one, have a tank damage for free, shoot down some missiles, so save some health on your starting Rapture. As you can see, I didn't actually take that much damage yet from my Rapture. I only took 170 shield damage. And then I will be able to cycle this Dominate back. And as well, I also just cast a Vertigo just to also, once again, just slow down the damage overall. And at this point, because I have the extra orbital slots, I'm going to start up a Temple of Hostility. And the main reason why is because roughly around this 5 minutes or so timing, you should start prepping for the Temple of Hostility. So this way you could go Tempest unlock and the Subliminal Manipulation unlock for the extra fleet supply, because as it's going to be very soon, the support player is going to give you a forward planet, and you're going to want to start building light factories, and immediately after that, just start building Tempests out of it. So we'll see how that plays out. In the meantime, I also build this Temple of Communion. And the main reason why is just to get some culture push early, so that this way, at some point, eventually, I'm going to arrive at this Crystal Communion, which is going to be a very sizable crystal income for powering the Tempest spam that I plan on doing. So yeah, I'm moving this Cobalt all the way forward, because this way the Cobalt's taking all the damage, and the same idea, right? You can see I stole a Javelin, and then my cooldown's about to coming back up, and I'm going to steal another Javelin soon. And there you go. So, and then as you can see, at this point, everything's all nice lined up. Had my Arctic Embrace, so I can now colonize this ice planet, get everything up and going, and I'm on after the temple in my initial surface mining for some extra crystal income. It finishes very quickly. I'm starting off on Booming Desert, and once again, it's the same idea. I want the extra civil slots, and the extra credit income doesn't actually hurt at this point either. It's pretty darn good, because I'm on very few systems anyway at this point of the game for the amount of time. At around the 8-minute mark, ideally I actually want to be somewhere around like 4 systems instead, if possible. But because they're 2 planets instead, they take a little bit longer to clear. So yeah, the Booming Desert City, because I have fewer planets, is going to make up a larger amount of my income here at this point. And as I mentioned, I kind of just ring around, so you can see here what's going on. All right, and you can see that once I actually get this desert, what am I going to do here? All right, so I have here we go. So from my logistics that I get from my nanite colonization, I have a free logistics, so I'm going to queue up 2 extra Temple of Hostilities. I'm also going to build a planet-based one as well. And the reason why this will round me to the tier 2. And as I mentioned, generally you want to start thinking about your tier 2 tech as you're getting the basic shield projection and the refined warheads, because at this point you should have this, and once you have these 2, that's your cue to start getting enough hostility points to start getting to tier 2, because then as you're queuing this, you want to queue your tier 2 military timing. Over at the civil, you'll notice I kind of like paused a little bit here. It's actually just inopportune. I should be queuing stuff up soon. So yeah, so let's take a look at what I'm queuing up. Alright, so the next 2 things I'm queuing up is going to be Orbital Extraction and Crystal Enrichment. And the reason why I'm kind of doing this Orbital Extraction and Crystal Enrichment is this is a slightly more greedy build early on, but since I already recognize I'm going to have all the I have free logistics from my crystal nanites, or rather the colony seed nanites. I also have asteroids. I have some extra civilian slots here, and I have some extra civilian slots here. So it's not going to be that much of a big investment to let me set up orbital extractors. And orbital extractors are very nice to help you power your Tempest because, of course, they happen to give you this metal and crystal income off them. So getting them started rolling early right now is quite nice. You can also choose to go purely surface. That is, if you happen to have a lot of planets and not that many asteroids, that's also something you might want to consider because planets, the planet-based mining is going to pay off a little bit better than just going pure orbital because they don't have that many orbital slots. So, but like I said, since I'm going to have 2 asteroids and I already have all these free logistics, it's a nice thing to kind of consider. Now, the other thing I could have also considered is have my Rapture go here to this, clear this out, and then send a smaller fleet to kind of clear this system out from the ice and then build a temple pilgrimage to basically colonize this specific asteroid. But I was planning on just kind of instead going down here to clear this out. I don't know why I didn't take this derelict. It probably was a mistake. And then the idea was I can use my split off to have my Rapture go one way here down here, and have my separate fleet that you can see I'm splitting them up soon. Planning on splitting it up soon to clear another path. Okay, so at this point you can notice I was given this asteroid already. So the very first thing I'm going to do is queue up a logistic before anything else. And the reason for that is pretty straightforward. You're going to want to set up your factory ASAP. Every second counts at this point. Okay? So don't be greedy. Don't do the other econ stuff first. Get your logistics and start queuing up your factories. Okay? And I also tell my eco player to feed Silas, and the reason why I tell him to feed this teal player here is because I know teal likes to play aggressive, and because teal had to give me one of his asteroids, he's going to have less econ going than what would be expected because he's actually giving away one of his economic stuff. So by our support player giving him some extra resource, like a little bit of extra windfall, it basically kind of smooths the hit of giving this away. And what I should have also kind of tried to really aggressively do is try to push all the way down here, grab this volcano, and then trade it to the Vasari player because volcanoes are really good for Vasari. But that was a slight, mistake. I didn't think of it. I didn't have that much time to play games lately, so a little rusty, kind of wearing off. And you can see that this is what I meant by splitting. I have a small fleet of essentially my expansion break off, but they do have 3 Javelin cruisers, which is going to be nice. That is going to go kind of colonize this asteroid, and then I think I try to take this ice. I don't actually quite recall, but I certainly can. It only has 53 supply. I got about, if we look over here, we got 66, 70 coming. So it should be able to actually have taken this out as well, and that would have been kind of nice. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to send my Rapture this way instead. And then you can see that, of course, that is why I'm queuing this Temple Pilgrimage, mainly because I wanted to do this kind of split off expansion. And you can see that I finished my tier 2 right on time for me to get my shield regen, which is the shield burst, which is handy for this for the expansion clearing phase. Also does make a difference if they're not focus firing your ships in the beginning, and then also eventually let me pick up this anima redirection. Oh, I should explain anima redirection. So anima redirection is one of the main things that's very important for Tempests to ensure that they're not wasting their missiles when you're focus firing because, well, if you read the description, it says your missiles will retarget if the original target dies while the missiles are out there. So this lets you actually just do what is how you focus fire in this game with your Tempest, which is if you look over here on the fleet panel, let's look at like enemy ships. Where can I find them? Let's look over here, right? You'll see that if I, oh, it doesn't actually show me. But essentially, if you Alt and right click on these ships in the from the fleet panel card, you would actually tell your ships to focus fire one at a time on those ships from whatever stack you select, which is very handy for your missiles, for your Tempests, because then the Tempests, they will focus one down, and the missiles that are still on the way after that target dies, they will fly off and shoot something else. So it's a really, really high DPS boost actually getting this tech. And of course, the 500 fleet supply cap is very, very important. Let's hope I don't make a mistake. I should be researching this right now, but we'll see how it goes. And you can see I'm going to pick up the telekinetic separation, and the main reason why is you can tell if I'm going Tempests, I'm already going to run into a Crystal Punch. Okay. Oh, I'm not going that way. I think I'm just directly sending my ships. Ah, yeah, because so I'm not bothering to cap this because I want to send more the immediate squad to the front as soon as possible because I already see they're about to engage over the volcano. And you can see here, I'm doing the standard expansion with the Rapture in the meantime as well. And I queue up a few research because I don't want to bother with kind of remembering to I don't want to have downtime in research. So I'm queuing up a few. The surface mining for metal now at this point. Once again, same idea. Tempests are going to cost metal and crystal, so of course I want to get those. You'll notice I start also picking up divination before some of these other ones, which is going to be specifically the Unity first pointer for clairvoyance, and also the influence bump. And the reason I want the influence bump up is because influence is really handy. You have Elixians here for +1 crystal, and also you have looting crew, which lets your Rapture start making money for you as well. So it's pretty nice. And indeed, I don't make that mistake. Didn't make. I kind of did, I think, because it looked like I got animal redirection first before I went to the 500 here. But really, I should have went for the 500 here because you can see here this is showing I'm fleet supply capped. So that was a small boo boo, but you know it looks like it's almost finishing up when I'm capped off. So not the end of the world. And you can see here I'm up to 4 factories here to start churning out Tempests, which then at this point lets me provide a much more dedicated front. We've already capped this volcano, and now we can push into this asteroid. And you can see that Orange is essentially kind of caught a little bit out of position. And also on top of that, he doesn't have a good fleet to fight into us because he has defensors, and I have Tempests, which counter defensors. So even though the defensors would do a great job against the skirmisher mass that Teal is going through, but because Teal is going through to skirmisher mass to fight purple, I'm not building a fleet to counter purple. I'm building a fleet to counter orange. So you can see here that I basically am already set up for that. Orange, though, did do a pretty aggressive opening with the double capital ships. Actually, triple capital. So they're going to be hard for us to take down, but once again, if you have enough guns, you're okay with it, and also especially because Teal already started transitioning towards assailants or Conrax, which are the missile boats that you're going to see all the time now from in this current patch. And now here, I'm going to clear forward once again, grab this ice, and this ice is a little annoying because I should have actually been careful. I should have started researching also. I should have, well, actually, no, I did do that, yeah. So this ice is a little annoying because, and you'll see that I'm already at the 2nd level influence for the Elixians, because why? Because I recognize, oh, this ice is right next to Elixian homeworld, so I'm going to actually have to constantly piece the Elixians over it. And now at this point, you can see just, I've already hit up this 1,000 fleet supply, and the main reason why is because I'm already at 489 fleet supply at this point in the game. I could actually be even higher if I put one more factory here, I could have been even higher. And as you can see, that probably would have been the better play because I'm floating quite a bit of material resources here, but that's also because at this point I was still kind of like waffling a little bit about do I want to go to tier 3 already and start getting ready to build out some Vigilises, or what do I want to do, right? And you can see here I'm also getting this knowledge aggregation because I plan on building up my research soon. And I already picked up Crystal Communion on the way to now. So now all my culture is building up me some crystals. So I'm having a nice little crystal income. My econ is actually pretty good. Let's take a stock of it, right? 24, 14, 15 versus, let's look at our counterpart here, who is Vasari, who should have the weaker ego than me. And yeah, 17, 16 in terms of the economy, right? So even though the Vasari player has, they will colonize more than you because they will have multiple caps doing so they can kind of like split off their colonization efforts. But my eco is actually pretty darn good in comparison. A little bit behind, just very slightly behind on the metal crystal, but of course I'm getting a lot more credit income, and I'm on one fewer planet. So yeah, and this is going to be now a little bit annoying because as you can see, because I'm kind of just blocked off by the Haluxians here, I have to wind around, and I'm going to try to take this volcano. And you can see that we actually caught this volcano and we're pushing very aggressively forward. We managed to clear out all the factories at purple, so purple's in a lot of trouble here at this point. Technically at this point we should have won this side completely, and a few critical mistakes on our end actually cost us, dragged this game out quite a bit. Especially because you can see here, Orange is of course trying to help by alleviating some pressure by doing an offense here, but it doesn't work out because we already got a lot of defenses in place in advance. And in fact, we even kill a capital ship. So Orange is like, okay, I'm out. I can't handle this. So he did a pretty smart move. He realizes, okay, I need a different route. So he goes this way instead with his fleet because he kind of guesses that I have to have a fleet of factories around here somewhere. So maybe he could try his luck at cutting off a little from the back line here. And then he has to send his main fleet kind of through this way. Now this part I get a little unlucky on the timing because, so I did have to piece the Eluxians as I mentioned, and I start clearing out this planet. Okay, and you're going to see something very, very annoying here. Because my plan of clearing out this planet is so I can set up a secondary planet factory, obviously behind my main one right here, because I want to also start getting some guardians as well into my build. So Orange shows up in the back line with a pretty sizable fleet to try to like now see if he can just kind of cut off any reinforcements from this. I think this was a bit of an overreaction. I didn't need to send this many Tempests back. I sent about like half of my Tempests back here to kind of clean this out. I probably didn't really need to. I probably could have just built like maybe a few turrets or stuff. But this caught me off guard. I didn't also know if more ships were coming out from this way. So yeah, better safe than sorry. But I leave about half the stuff here. So Teal's now here. And I basically say, okay, Orange is cutting behind us, so I'm going to now drive them off and get them out of here. And what I meant by unlucky was this. So as I was clearing this volcano, Luxians kind of came up and colonized it just as I was about to try to move to the colonization, so they beat me too, as you can see, right? And the problem with this is I had to piece them earlier because they were hitting my ice. So I can't even take the planet back without essentially declaring on them, which is going to basically mean you're permanently at war with them and you can't, and they're going to invade you all the time. So that's also a bad idea. So yeah, so this really, really, really sucked. But what is nice is Orange did have this volcano that he can't defend against me with because as you can see already here, by just sending just even a portion of my fleet, I'm already outsupplying him massively. And this is the advantage you have early game as Advent versus Vasari. This also was a bit of a misplay. I think we kind of overreacted. We sort of thought that there were a bigger orange fleet here, and we didn't realize that orange actually moved his fleet over here. That in terms of the more sizable portion of it, because had we recognized that, we actually should have stayed here and then fortified this choke. And I think with the another bit of a misplay was Teal should have given this asteroid to green, which is our eco player, because then green can fortify and start building out of there, and then 3v2 we collapse on and destroy the side completely. So once again, this is the second mistake that when the game really should have been over in our favor, but we just didn't do it. So yeah. Okay, so let's keep going. So as mentioned, Tempest clear deal with defenses really nicely. So obviously we just clear that out, kick him out, and then we chase, because this is also where orange is setting up their supply, attempting their production. And you can see here already blue realizes he needs to kind of help out this flank. So blue is sending some initial ships here. And once again, I kind of like maybe overestimated what's happening here. I only saw this, and I assumed there was a bigger fleet coming than what actually was coming here. So as a result, I decided, okay, I'm going to pull most of my now new forces here to just basically fight off orange and blue. But really, this was kind of an overestimation. Blue, if you take stock of that situation, I have something like 600 fleet supply. I think blue has something like maybe 300, and orange has maybe roughly like 200 or so. Well, so actually, I guess it's not too much of an exaggeration still. Maybe it was something I needed to do in hindsight. So yeah, actually it wasn't a bad call. Blue is massing up ships here through, looks like he's pumping them out of 3 factories here. So actually, yeah, I take that back. Actually, it wasn't a bad idea to send this here, because I wanted to fortify this planet and then basically set up to basically block blue and orange from coming this way, and then have, ideally we want green to then start powering through and then going this way. But as I mentioned, this was a big blunder to not give green the stuff. And also, I think this part caught also orange off guard in terms of how much fleet was actually coming through, or rather teal off guard with how much fleet was actually coming through. So we look at this fight. The numbers look kind of even. You have about 720 or so fleet supply from our end, and then versus about 646 or so from the opponent. But a critical important thing is there are three capitals here. Capitals are very supply efficient, so they're misleading in how much power is actually behind them. And also 47 of these are Gardas, which are really going to be good at neutralizing these 41 Conrax. And on top of that, we have 5 kind of dead supply here going on in terms of just bombing ships. So ultimately, this fight is a little sketchy, especially because it looked like Teal got 2 of his capitals. Yeah, 2 of his capitals sniped, which it's unfortunate. I didn't quite see what happened there. But if he didn't, that fight wouldn't have been nearly so bad. But I think what happened was Teal got surprised by a double jump here, and then had to run back, and they were taking a lot of hits in that time. In the meantime, when they were running back, and we can also see, oof, got really unlucky not killing this Marauder, which is on pretty low health there. So yeah. So slight micro mistakes, I suspect, across the board. But yeah, so we see here, I'm trying to micro my Tempest to avoid the Conrax. And actually the Gardas aren't quite in place, so I guess the Gardas aren't do as much as I... Oh no, they are in place now. Yeah, they're moving through here. So as you can see, I'm just trying to avoid them the whole time. And... Ooh, actually this is a bit of... Okay, so here's the problem, I think. I mean, we drive them off, but this wasn't great. I think that it looked like the Conrax went to go purely chase the capital ships that were at the edge, so he got a little bit of out microed here, because that means then the Conrax aren't doing damage to clear out and thin out the DPS from here, which is going to be the actually the other Conrax for the most part, and the skirmishers. We really should which really should have been happening is these skirmishers need to go down instead, because these skirmishers and Conrax are the main thing that are going to deal damage to the Conrax. Once they're out, then yeah, you might have some extra fleet around, caps around, but those caps without their supporting are going to go down a lot faster, because then your skirmishers are freed up to go kill the Gardas. But it looked like, look, these skirmishers are not on Gardas. I think Silas focused everything on the capital ships. So yeah, that was a slight micro mistake. These skirmishers really should have been either on the skirmishers or the Gardas. Ideally the Gardas. Get them all out of the way, because then our Conrax will start actually doing damage. And that's their main heavy hitter there. So yeah, I wasn't paying attention here, because my plan then is, as you can see, I was basically saying, okay, well, what I'm going to do is, since blue is here, and that's their eco player, if I'm pretty sure my fleet is the strongest in the game at this point. It's pretty sizable, as you can see. It's got 800 supply locked up here. I got 1,200 supply overall, because I have some supplies over here. This fleet enough is probably already going to be able to take care of this. And as you can see, I'm right. 800, I guess only 400. So I could basically kind of just rampage through the back line as long as we hold over here. Okay, so let's see how this plays out. And also, once again, I'm tagging up to tier 3, and I got Vigilus, and also I'm deciding for Illuminators, because Illuminators are a pretty good answer against tech if you don't have capital ships, because the tech, you should expect them to start having cruiser heavy stuff, and a lot of techs now go for Javelins, and because Javelins would just absolutely murder your capital ships, Javelins and the Conrax respectively, you need something to punch through the cruisers. So really the only answer you're going to really viably have is Vigilus to help you block shots with Guardians, and then Exorius to do your damage for you. So that's what the tier 3 idea is. And if you look back at tier 2 civil, I expanded on my, I did Arctic development. The reason why should be pretty obvious. I have 2 ice planets, so I have 2 of that. And I did volcano development, same exact rationale, 2 volcano planets. I pick up a little bit of culture bumps here, and the main reason why is just because of the fact that I want to spread my culture for extra crystal income for teal as well, so that teal is going to start being benefit from my culture for extra crystal income, as well as green, if green happens not to want to give me his credit culture, which is actually superior, to be honest. In addition, I also pick up this Unity 2, and the main reason why is for the Sanctify and then this Recall, because these are just kind of utility spells that are nice to have at this point. And Recall is also extra nice to have, because at one point what I'm going to do is I am going to turn one of these, I believe this volcano, into my new home world, so that this way I could directly recall into it. So alright, let's see how this plays out now. So I'm signaling that, like, hey, I'm fleeting on both sides here, and PB does jump from here, and this is actually pretty good for us, because of the fact that by him jumping over here, I don't have to chase his fleet around back all the way back here, where he could basically build up his fleet as he's running back, so that then his fleets can converge, and I can no longer necessarily handle them as easily. So by him doing that and them all coming here, we could basically take them all on 2v3, because we do have a sizable fleet advantage. So basically take the secondary fleet, whittle some stuff down, and I show up here, and this was a bit of a, I see what I'm doing. I'm basically trying to, I thought that blue left this way, so I went back to chase here, but I didn't realize that blue actually jumped down here. So That was, if you're wondering why this little weird back and forth happened. And this was a bit of a weird thing that occurred. I don't know. So somehow at one point I had these set on engage close, and I don't know why they were on engage close because I tried to move them away, and I didn't notice where they were moving necessarily because, well, if they were on engage anywhere, they once they moved back, they would move, towards the enemy again. But yeah, for whatever reason, because they were on engage close, they just sat here AFK for like a good chunk of the time. So that was a little, that was a big oopsie on my part. But as you can see, I'm going to move my Vigilists in because I'm starting to build some of them. And let's see here. So I come in now with my fleet. And here's something that you wanted to kind of take note of. All right, let's see if I end up pulling it off. Okay, no. So yeah, level 6 Rapture, Malice on the Javelins, and they're gone. Okay. Now, unfortunately, Javelins, their XP is kind of bugged, so they only give 30 XP, which is kind of ridiculous. But that was a huge win for our part, because Javelins are one of the main damage dealers that they had on their side. And then, of course, as soon as you drop the Malice, your job for your Rapture is done. He should be running ASAP. I did a very bad move here. I ran up. I tried to go up this way, and that was dumb because going up this way means the Conrexes snipe me off, which they will do. What I should have done is after I dropped them off here, I should have went off this way. And I think what happened was I gave it the retreat order instead of manually moving it, and because of that, yeah, it's going towards the asteroid, which costs me my Rapture. And you can see here. Well, actually, it wouldn't have. It looks like it just didn't make it in time. Mainly because between the Desolator phase missiles and also the gravity warhead, it just couldn't get out. So yeah, unfortunate. But it could have made it out, but one for whatever reason, micro mistake, it didn't. But anyway, doesn't quite matter because we're going to clearly win this fight. You can already tell from if you just skim the fleet supply here. We got a combined total of 1,800 fleet supply against about 900 or so. So we have double their fleet supply. And also anything else here is going to be start getting cut off here as well as some purge vessels that will bomb out, that I'm sending to now bomb out these planets. So a bit of a Pyrrhic win because losing a level 6 Rapture is pretty painful. But obviously we win this fight because we're so we can start just grabbing all the wreckages. And yeah, other than that, tiering up to tier 4, and the main reason for tier 4 is same idea. I need extra fleet supply, and also I of course want start getting the various weapon upgrades. And you can see here that I'm also researching the plasma upgrade, and the plasma upgrade is both for the bombardment from my purge vessels, as well as because I plan on eventually getting Destras, and Destras actually use plasma weapons. So this is one of the annoying things about Advent when you try to get into this mixed fleet comp, is that they all end up using different weapons. So you have to spend a lot of research to make the units efficient. So yeah, you've got to better get started on them. So rule of thumb, I always tell folks is once you start researching military, you non-stop researching military. There should always be something for you to research in the military tech tree. Okay, so let's just keep going. Alright, and at this point I've mentioned, okay, we gotta kill Phoebe Head because he's gonna be a blue, which is their eco player. He's gonna be a huge pain in the ass if we just try to drive down this way because he could keep coming from behind us. So I basically say, alright, you know what? I'm gonna try to bait his fleet around. So what am I doing? I'm gonna first move a small fleet here to just basically pull him around and see if I can also snipe off some stuff here, right? So the small fleet here, their main job is actually to escort these 6 purge vessels around to bomb planets. So you can see I'm just going to do a little bit of a ring around. And then my main fleet is going to go here, here, and then just start driving through its territory. Now, here is the slight issue. I didn't have a mic at that point because everyone was on Discord, and I wasn't clear that I am going to kill PB Head. And I think Green somehow misunderstood my intention, or misunderstood what he should have been doing, which was he should have been reinforcing here with Teal. We basically want to swap positions, right? I go through here, and he goes through here, because as you can see, they're already quickly remassing their fleet, and I'm taking a sizable chunk of mine to go deal the damage. And while this fleet doesn't look that big right now, you have to keep in mind there are quite a large amount of capital ships here. So this fleet is probably really close to punching to roughly about 1,200 fleet supply worth of power. And you can see here, we got 1,200 fleet supply of power, but some of that is tied up in planet bombers, and others are tied up in Tempests, which are not going to be microed either. I'm not even going to be, because I'm not going to be paying attention to this fight because I want to pay attention to my fights over here, which is where the majority of my fleet is going to be. And the Tempests also at this point are going to be slightly outscaled by whatever they're going up against. The Guard is going to eat a lot of their damage. There's not that many Conrax, so they're mostly going to be shooting these capital ships, and for you to punch through the capital ships, assuming there's no Gardas, you're going to need to focus fire them down. With Gardas, you might as well just forget about it at that point. So yeah, this was a huge mistake, and you're going to see we're going to pay for it. But I do pull, as you can see, I pull blue out of order. And one of the things that I actually want to kind of point out that I managed to spot. So I am going to actually rewind just a bit here. Let's see if I can find the timing. Okay. Oh, actually, the phase lanes didn't quite shift just yet. But if we look at the phase lanes, at one point, you're going to notice something. So, the Eluxians kind of go all the way over here soon. That's going to be a little bit annoying in terms of things, but well, actually, let's go back to where they are now. So I'm dragging blue around and so forth. But at one point, I do notice that, hey, this Earth planet is in a really weird spot. Yeah, as you can see, I mentioned the phase lane change, right? And if I recall what happened, I can't find it in the timestamp, but the phase lane to get to this Earth planet was slightly different, and it let me do kind of this ring around the Earth planet to bait this fleet all the way out, and then manage to get all the way here to bomb out this crystal planet of blues before he managed to get anything done here. And then on top of that, even better is, by the time blue gets here, it's just in time for my main fleet to get here. So now he can't contest this at all, even. So I bomb it out, and he's not retaking it anymore. Once again, another mistake. I should have researched Crystalline Embrace and just permanently kept it. But, c'est la vie. And once again, this is a huge issue. because not only did I evacuate the 400 supply worth of Tempest I had here, but green is sending Harkas through here. His main fleet is really out of position all the way over here because he should be over here. So this is a big oopsie. And unsurprisingly, the enemy team capitalized on it. 73 Gardas with Hoshiko's, Amarza, 72 assailants, and so forth against a fleet that is essentially trying to transition into oppressors. So we took such a huge hit, and by the time I noticed that this was jumping in, I told Green to go back, but this was actually way too late. I needed to tell Green to go back like earlier, way earlier. And also the focus firing here was kind of bad as well. Once again, this is a little bit of a poor micro situation because the Gardas are doing a great job at essentially blocking the assailants, and the assailants are trying to kill the capital ships, but the Gardas are just screening really well for it. So yeah, we're gonna lose this choke, and as you can see, like green is just unfortunately this is just too late. And yeah, Teal already lost pretty much the majority of his fleet, and by the time green shows up, actually this is also just waiting around to get cleaned up too. So this was a huge blunder. This probably undid like our previous 1 hour or so worth of work. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. Sometimes you really have to be careful about getting 2v1. Don't underestimate your opponent in those scenarios. I don't know what the heck's going on. Oh, that fleet is just very slowly company. So as you can see, I'm basically going to drive all the way through to blue. And even though I talked about the phase lane shift, here's another big issue. So at one point, I built my home planet to here, and that was a big oopsie. I thought the home planet that I established was here, and I think what happened was there was a phase lane shift at some point, and the planets were a little bit in different alignment than when I started establishing it. So because of that, you're going to see a pretty big last oopsie of this game, which is why this game actually doesn't end for another 3 hours. Because by all means, I will tell you, we should have won this game off this play already. There is no reason blue and purple and rather purple, orange, and blue should still be alive at this point. But we kind of threw hard. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go here, but it seems like my team is in big trouble. They're kind of like needing to go all the way back to restabilize. So I need to bring my fleet back to join with them. And I thought I was jumping back here, which would have been great because first of all, I kill all 15 battlefield cruisers that are, out of position. I could just go down here, help them retake this orange asteroid. They could join up with me, and we can now 3v2 push through, right? Well, I jump here, so instead what happens is I get 2v1s instead. And on top of that, there was a huge lag spike at this point, and my fleet is not doing the right things at all. I should not even be trying to take this fight at all, because these Gardas are going to ensure I do absolutely nothing. There's a level 6 Marza obliterating me from the back with missile barrage. So I'm going to lose my level 6 progenitor. I'm going to lose my level 6 5 Halcyon. So this was a complete disaster. And worst of all, of course, I can't recall because this is my home planet. So all is not lost. I do have my Titan out. I do still manage to have a good amount of my fleet, and I did do a ton of damage to blue. Okay, so as you can see, like I basically reduced blue down to just only 2 planets. Oh no, and this one over here. Uh, but still, that was a game-changing blunder, I would say, at the last few series of events. And you can see, even with that game-changing blunder, when we group here, which we plan on doing in a bit, when we actually get our fleets to group here, which is taking their sweet time to do so, they actually have to run. So this is what I meant by how ahead we actually were from the start of the game. I lost a huge part of my fleet, so many levels. Teal lost a huge part of his fleet, all his caps, and yet we still had to make them run from us. Teal's already basically kill on the home planet with bombers and stuff. He probably didn't. This was probably a little ambitious because this planet has 6,000 hells, a whole bunch of mess loaded turrets here, and all that stuff. So I don't think this was gonna happen. But yeah, you can see that we obviously still can push them pretty darn far by just grouping our fleet. And Teal gets his Titan out. So at this point in the game, we're actually still commandingly in the lead on this flank, despite all the blunders that occurred. But this replay review has kind of like ran on long enough. Just as a heads up of like what else I'm doing. One last thing I'm getting, you'll notice I'm still on Civil 2. It's because I don't quite feel safe yet. My fleet took a pretty sizable hit, as you can see. I'm down to 1,250 fleet supply from near close to 2K. So I'm rebuilding, and you can see the composition that I'm trying to shape up. Vigilus, Guardians, Destras, Illuminators. Basically, mainly because of the fact that this is kind of supported by capital ships. Because this is kind of the end game fleet I plan on transitioning to. It does end up being the strongest slash second strongest fleet by the end of the game. So it is something that I think is worth trying. And then building also up to exotic refineries because I want to start giving my the Psykinetic plating to all my ships, because this is the main way you're going to have them try to survive with telekinetic push and vigilances against all of these assailant and missile spam that you're going to expect to see, where they just right click your capital ship and it'll explode if you don't have the setup. So yeah, other than that, if not going to go too in depth into the game, we do push purple, orange, and blues pretty significantly, but most of it is me kiting them around by constantly because I had essentially the strongest to second strongest fleet at most points of the game. I was basically kiting them around because our other side was unfortunately not doing so hot, so I was kiting their planets around to try to bait them into certain favorable exchanges. The game definitely goes back and forth until we call it at the 3 hour mark. So yeah, if you'd like to see this replay in full, you could go over to the official Sins Discord, where I did post up this copy of the replay. But yeah, hopefully this was helpful to show you the idea of what is the build I plan on going for as now the support advent player, and also some mistakes that you would hopefully not make in your own games. So other than that, cheers and take care. Thanks for watching.